favorite picture of me with a robot of all time, and I take a lot of pictures with robots, so that should tell you how big a fan I am of that robot. And hopefully he'll maybe show a couple pictures of Roboys, so I can live a little bit of nostalgia there. But please welcome Raphael.
Yes. So I tried to make it entertaining, given this is one of the last talks today. Good. So just so you know, this is Roboy in 2013. It's a fully musculoskeletal humanoid robot. I adopted it. I was a part of the team that originally designed it, but it wasn't sort of mine. But then I adopted it, took it over. We built a second generation humanoid, also musculoskeletal. You can now visit it in the German Museum. And in 2020, we built a third generation musculoskeletal humanoid. And I think what this shows is we spent a lot of time doing very painful things. And we're not afraid of doing these things but also there's use cases for this. So this is one collaboration we're doing for many years now. This is with the University of Oxford. They're using our robots to train tendon in shoulders in the hope of one day being able to implant them back into humans. And they're using musculoskeletal humanoids because this creates realistic strains on their shoulder tendon pieces. So that's one of the very few use cases we found for this technology, and sort of thanks to the pandemic, and also thanks to showing our robot at fairs over many years, and I think Roboy is about the most hugged robot out there. We really understand what it means to be close in physical contact to a robot, and so that's one of the reasons we pivoted over to care and abandoned the musculoskeletal approach, at least for now, because also everyone keeps talking about having humanoids in homes, and you probably know this Goldman Sachs report says, well, there's not going to be any humanoids even in the blue sky scenario before 2027. So we thought, hold my beer, let's see what we can do quicker. So this is some impressions. Our humanoid in private homes. So these are all private living homes. It's where people privately live. And we left the robot with them. So there were no engineers present. Of course, they were outside of the flat and could react at any time, but they were staying with the robot alone. And so I think we need to correct that report. There's no humanoid homes, at least before 2024. So let's talk about what it took to get into homes as fast as we can and why we did this. So first, robots are dangerous, right? Especially humanoids. So the easiest way of making it safe is making it weak. So our robot cannot lift more than 1.5 kilograms. So these water bottles are challenging already, but that's totally okay if you really look deeper into the use case. It's actually not necessary to create a viable business model for lifting more than 1.5 kilograms. Then we built a soft skin around it. So this robot, you can hug it can bump into stuff. It's very soft and there's nowhere you can basically squish yourself. So it's safe to interact, which is really important. We used a lot of off-the-shelf parts. Basically, we bought arms that are already existing and fitted it into our system. And we had trusted partners that helped us with the paperwork. So this was a study. This was conducted together with Charité Berlin, which is one of the most renowned German university hospitals. They were sort of helping us through the paperwork, through the ethical application, making sure, of course, we had like study insurance and so on. So this was a safe and controlled environment in the sense that everything was made sure we're not going to hurt anyone. And of course, you're not going to do anything autonomous with humanoids in homes, not with a 50-kilogram robot. So it's all one-to-one teleoperation. So this is Robotics. That's the system we built. You can clothe it however you want. So this is a choice, and we also gave this choice to every person who went into home with. And interestingly, every person choose a different dress. We had 4 dresses, we had 4 pilots, and we had used them all. And I think one of the things we're seeing so much, we're seeing all these humanoids, And if you're honest, we are all teleoperating our humanoids. So why not make it obvious? Why not actually use the fact that there is a person on the other side and show that person and make it not just a robot, but make it a communication tool and a communications instrument. So we added a face people can trust. And this was the #1 thing in the analysis afterwards. Everyone kept saying the face was absolutely crucially important. And yes, it looks absolutely creepy. And I'm sorry, it's my face and I have a resting bitch face, so I'm sorry. We will be using different face in the future, we're working making it nicer, but actually, it is still a very, very important feat to be did. So please meet our test users, our test customers. They're all well in their 80s and 90s. I think the oldest one was 95, so really old and well-lived people, all very, very charming. They were all living alone, so they had relatives visiting sometimes, but they were not, they were living alone in their home. This was a requirement. They were all in need of care, and none of them was actually afraid of robots. They really liked it. They really loved having that robot in there, and I'm going to show some impressions from that. And they loved the face. So we now have the challenge, we need to upgrade the face because relatives are like, ugh, but the elderlies actually love it the way it is. So our core user group doesn't have a problem with that. And, come on. Well, stuck. No. So quickly, what was the study setup that we did? So with four elderlies, 1 week each, they're all living alone, they all are in need of care. So they have care services coming once a day, each of them at least. They're all cognitively sound because they needed to be able to agree to be part of that study and understand the risks and also understand what they're agreeing to, because it's a multi-day complex pilot. We also did tests with people that have dementia but outside of the study. Basically, we came in on Monday morning, we set up the robot in their home, and then we left. So from Monday afternoon to Friday lunchtime, they were alone with the robot. We turned it off overnight because we didn't want to do 24/7 telepresence, but the robot stayed in their homes. And we were talking with them, like, how was it having this robot at night? Weren't it scary? Because when one of our test users, she walked past it every time she went from her home from her bedroom to the toilet. And she was like, no, I knew it's there. So for me, this was really comforting. I kind of knew someone is there for me. So it was not what we expected. We only went in when there was trouble, and on average, this was about once a day. And the rest, I said, the robot stayed overnight. But let's talk about what we learned, because I think a lot of those learnings are really important for bringing humanoid robots into homes. So first, homes are full of stuff. Especially homes of elderly people. They're really narrow. So this is an assisted care home. It's her private flat, but it's tiny. It's less than 20 square meters. And because of that, you keep bumping into stuff. So it's really important to have a robot where it's okay and safe for it to bump into stuff. And we did so a lot. And one of the first things we fixed, because the gripper wasn't padded, and we left a scratch in the fridge of the first test user. For the first thing is we padded our gripper as well, because it's just unavoidable, because they have so much things in there, and they have carpets, and you need to glue them to the floor, otherwise they get stuck in the wheels. Like here on the left side, these drawers, they have these really annoying little knobs. So what we put is cable ties, and with the cable tie, it's actually very easy to open it. But that's something you can do in an elderly context. Like, who of you would accept this sort of from their household robot? Probably not a lot of people. But in the elderly context, that's fine, because this really means a difference from being able to stay at home. You have to go into a care home or get a living caregiver, and really being dependent on a person you live with 24/7. It's also quite important, like stuff is never really on a good location. Like getting things out of fridges is really hard. Opening fridges, it's a really annoying thing, because fridges, they have this vacuum, and you need to work against that vacuum, and then it suddenly opens. So basically the robot will quickly move. We also spilled yogurt, and our robot doesn't get to the floor, so we had to get in, and this was one of the interventions. We had to clean the yogurt from the floor. And I think what's really important is, we know as roboticists, every home is different, but every home is different. It's such a huge variance. Everything is not just a different location, but it's different height, different aspects. You need to know where what is. We really also struggled with very simple differences between homes. And I think when we think about generalization of robot learning models, you are really looking for something really unstructured and very different between those. These are just German homes. And I think one of the most important aspects is we always see these videos where robotic companies show like a robot can iron now, and we see this iron in motion, and that's the task. So we've been doing laundry as one of the things we've been doing. So loading the washing machine and hanging up the clothes after they were washed. But we can actually not do that task because we could not set up the place to hang up the clothes. And one thing is, if you look at a lot of those tasks in homes, what's really missing is you need to do the task from the very, very start to the very end. And for ironing, for example, that includes setting up that ironing board, plugging in the iron, you have heat. It's a very, very complex thing to do. And this is so easily underestimated because we tend to just prepare things in our labs. And in a home, you can't do it because everything you need to prepare means someone needs to do that for the robot. So if you go into homes, your new nemesis are going to be containers that are really hard to open. And a lot of small things that you don't expect. One thing is also, like elderlies, they really need, they often are too frail to walk on their own. And one way of tackling this problem is actually not making the robot robust enough so someone can lean on the robot, but by having the robot use tools that are available, like a walking aid in a home, to make this possible. And this way we have a very easy separation. We can actually help someone go to the toilet that's no longer fit to walk on their own without them actually endangering themselves because they're leaning onto the robot. Users absolutely love these active tasks. And if you make it playful, they become really, really active and invested into these things. Actually, one test user, she's a diabetic, and the day where we did most of these interactions with her, she didn't need insulin in the evening. She was so active with us, she completely forgot. I mean, she was tired in the evening, but she totally forgot that she's active. And it's not just that, but they also start to help the robot. You're seeing this here, like the robot drops the stone sort of somewhere in between, and she actually then moves it to where it's supposed to go, and then takes the board to her, and then takes a long time to think about her next move. And that's perfect because after the third move, I realized I can use the time to grab the next stone. So actually this game was not at all slower than as it would have been if you were playing this real life. So this way of the users actually helping a robot is really important in elder care because it means the people are more active. And it's really making it hard in any other kind of use case because if you have a robot that's supposed to make a coffee in the morning and you have to help it every time, you don't want that robot, right? But for elder care, having success rates in, I don't know, 50% is actually fine because the user becomes more active. And they absolutely love it. So this is, I'm not sure if you have sound. I mean, she speaks German, so. Do we have sound?
Da Erwähnung, ich kann gar nicht mit ihm anfangen, aber das ist nicht der Fall.
Yeah, so she made these socks for him and he's now wearing those socks. And it was beautiful. Like she really, and the thing is, she can't actually use a microwave. She doesn't know how it works anymore. Like her son explained it to her 10 times, she still can't do it. Interacting with a robot was zero problem because for her it just works like a human. And they really sort of start to love it. They start to build a relationship with the operator through the robot, and we get quotes like, actually it felt like you could just step out of the robot anytime. It's like, you're here with me, and you're just wearing a weird suit. And that's exactly sort of the kind of interaction we wanted to build. Dementia is not a limitation. We've interacted with lots of people with dementia. See, she has a very, very advanced dementia, but she really wanted to hug the robot, so of course that's what we did. This is the operator perspective. So that's how I saw it. After that, she said things, I love you, and I was like, no, I'm married. But it was very nice, and we could really interact and talk with them, and it works. And also the caregivers actually love it.
Also uns haben sie komplett begeistert. Also unser gesamtes Team ist total begeistert. Ja, und es hat richtig Spaß gemacht, damit zu wirken. Also vielen Dank auch nochmal.
Danke Ihnen, für uns
If you can't convince the caregivers, you're not going to deploy into care. They need to be on board, they need to love the system. Otherwise, the first thing that happens is you're going to end up in a corner, it's not going to happen. So we're really happy that they are actually allowing this. One other thing is they're actually not spending a lot of time with that system. So we had to trigger all the interactions. They could use it, like we were listening in 24/7, they could just call it at any point. They didn't do that, although we trained it with them multiple times. So they're not looking for constant entertainment, they're really just looking for safety, for ensuring someone is with them in their homes. And we did about 2.5 hours of interaction every day, and this was exhausting already. So we think around 1.5 hours of teleoperation is necessary to keep a person with dementia in their home throughout the day. And that's actually really cool. I like a robot that's not doing much, and it only moves 1.5 hours a day. So this low utilization is actually really useful for us. And one thing we learned is trust builds actually too fast. So after the first day, they get so comfortable with this system that they do things that we told them they shouldn't do, and they still do it. Like I was in the fridge trying to get out cheese and so on, and I suddenly see an arm coming through, her grabbing something from the fridge, and the arm going away while I was working in the fridge. I was like, how? You can't, like I was moving, so I mean, as soon as I saw it, I stopped moving the robot. But for her, she just didn't see a risk anymore. And this piece of cake, you see it's cut really on a really steep angle, and that's because we used a knife to cut it. And despite me telling her, please stay away from me doing this cut, she was like, no, let's do it. I didn't want to do it, but she was really insistent on having that. And I think that's really one of those things, like we need to be super careful when we build systems for elderlies, that we take safety serious, because they will start to trust it immediately and they will think this is safe even when it potentially is not. This would all not have been possible without our amazing partners. So Charité is Germany's most renowned university hospital. Agustinum is a leading German premium care provider. Ayatanda is Germany's largest private home care provider. And Diakoniezentrum is sort of a very innovative but smaller, vertically integrated care provider. We've also been supported by the German Ministry of Science and Education. And I think we have a really unique approach to make humanoids work in homes. So this works as a business with 100% teleoperation. We don't need to become autonomous. So this is a great data collection approach, because actually our users are paying us to collect that data over time. But we don't, once we start automating this, we don't actually need a 100% success rate or a 99% success rate. For us, because we always have a teleoperator as well, a 50% success rate already reduces our costs a lot. So I think to tackle the care crisis and have a meaningful impact, we need and want to build 150,000 systems of this live by 2029. We're currently raising a pre-seed round. If you're interested, please talk to me. And with that, thank you so much, and if there's questions, please.
We have time for one or two very quick questions.
Enjoy less the interaction if they knew it was autonomous rather than a human behind the robot?
So this was the unified feedback. Everyone was like, it was so important there's a human on the other side. That being said, from other companies in the field, I don't think it's necessarily true. But it's what they're saying. Like they say it's really important. But I think we can get quite far with LLMs. And the question then is whether we want to.
Hi, two questions. First of all, did you get any comments about the height of the robot and whether in a production environment you would make it shorter or more human scale? And then the second question is there data that exists based on having actual caregivers at potential healthcare savings or anything like that that may make the business model even more amenable?
Yes, so the height, that's a really interesting question. So we were quite lucky with the height because the comment was, we asked them how if they were taller and lower, and they were like, no, it's actually kind of convenient so that they don't have to look too much up when they're sitting, because they're sitting a lot. So I think the height at this roughly 160 with a head, that was pretty well done from our side. Of course, it also depends a bit on the operator. If the operator is a lot taller, it's a bit weird that you're suddenly less tall, and so on. But in general, it was not a huge issue for them. Nobody was like, can you please make it a lot smaller? That being said, of course, we want it to be a bit smaller because it's really tight spaces, and the tighter we can make, the better that is. In terms of data, like the model we're building allows a home care service to turn these customers into profitable customers again. So typically they become unprofitable because they have to visit them multiple times a day, and then they become too ill, so they have to go to a care home or an assisted care situation. And with us, we can actually help them. They can put a robot there. We take all the tasks for which they normally would have to go again, and then they only come once a day for this typical medical care tasks. And these we can't do with the robot. We can't do anything like strong physical interaction, but it's also not necessary because all those tasks are rare, so they happen at most once a day. And we take all the others, like managing pills, managing drinking, so they drink enough, making sure they're active and move throughout the day. So that's the things we can do.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.